I hear a lot of creatives say, I didn't make anything today because I just didn't feel it. But I wonder if we have to feel it before we create something. I recently read Steven Pressfield's book, The War of Art, and in the book he talks about resistance, which he says is anything which keeps us from creating. He speaks about it like an internal voice which never sleeps, but always whispers that that creative act can wait for another day. A day which we know, if we're honest with ourselves, might never come. It's like an internal monologue which runs, constantly giving us excuses not to risk, not to get up, not to get out, not to pick up the camera or take out the paintbrushes or open up that Word document. In short, it's the voice which tells us not to create today. We all have our own list of resistances which we battle, but I thought I'd share mine with you and how I deal with them, in the hope that it will help you think about your own and help you find ways to beat them. I have three big ones. The first of the resistances that I really struggle with is perfectionism. I don't want to start anything unless I know it's going to be great and I know people are going to appreciate it. And I think people misunderstand perfectionism. You know, they think it's just some kind of drive. Someone said to me once, I wish I was a perfectionist so that I worked harder to make everything I do great. But they don't understand the crippling side of perfectionism, which is that we sit going, I don't want to start anything unless it's going to be perfect, but we also know that nothing we do will ever be perfect, so you never want to start anything. The way that I've kind of fought perfectionism is to think about the longer term instead of the shorter term, to stop trying to think about every project that I start as being a finished, final, perfect endpoint in any sense, and to think of every project instead as a draft along a longer journey of creativity that will span my lifetime. So that means that done is better than perfect. It's a phrase I heard the other day and I'm kind of hanging on to. To just do it, to just put it out there, even if it's not brilliant, is actually good. So put things out, and this is what I tell myself, put things out that aren't necessarily great. Put things out that aren't even necessarily finished if that's the best I can do for now. Because all these drafts, all these revisions, all these tests will hopefully in the long run lead to better things. Every failure becomes a learning experience where it leads me to the next thing where I've learned lessons and do the next thing better. And hopefully the whole is more an expression of good work than every single project having to be individually perfect. The second resistance I battle regularly is rationalization. And if you're like me, you overthink everything. If I'm not feeling it on a particular day, my brain will click in so fast to give me a laundry list of reasons why I shouldn't even bother in the first place. Like, I don't have the best gear. So because other photographers have fancy gear and I don't, I shouldn't even bother because I won't produce good work. Which is of course a lie. I mean, I need to go out and work a bit harder maybe because I don't have the exact thing that I need for that project, but if I use a bit of creativity and ingenuity, I will get the job done. And just creating and expressing myself in that area when I've had to fight through those maybe limitations will make me a better photographer in the long run. Sometimes I'll compare myself to other photographers and go, well, they're so much better than me, I shouldn't even bother. But that comparison is just in my own head. It doesn't matter, and it doesn't matter if I'm not as good as them. It doesn't matter if I'm better than some or worse than some. To go out and to express yourself in an area should be its own thing, regardless of who else has done what in that space. Sometimes I'll play victim, like, you know, I have to struggle so hard as a photographer and others don't, which is, again, I know, absolute rubbish, but my brain tells me that. So it says, don't worry, you don't need to get out of bed today because you struggle very hard, and other photographers, it's handed to them on a silver plate. It's so rare that that's the case for anybody. We all fight and we all struggle. So it's a terrible excuse. And the last one probably is an ugly admission. Sometimes I won't want to bother to get up and try something. So if someone else has done a better job than me online, I know about it, I'll just pull their images up on iPad and I'll sit there and just quietly in my head critique the mistakes that they're making. They didn't do that right, they messed up there, they messed up there, just to tell myself they're not actually as good as I think they are. I mean, what a terrible trick to play, you know. We're on a scale here and I want to better myself, but instead of getting out of bed and actually actively risking to better myself, I'll just drag them down a bit in my head so I don't even have to bother. I mean, thankfully I never find myself actively trolling people online or posting comments, but that game in my head is an ugly one that tries to keep me from getting up and creating something. And the best I've been able to do with those is to notice those things when they pop up, because the minute I can pick up that my brain is doing that, I can call it for the lie that it is. And the third resistance I have to battle is fear, which probably underlies all the other ones for all of us. Like anyone else, I have a fear of failure, of doing something and then falling on my face and being seen to fall. I have a weird fear of success. I think I want success to come in a very specific way and in my time, and that's at the root of it probably a fear that I can't control things. I can't control whether things will work out or how well they'll do. I have a fear of criticism and being ridiculed. Like anyone else, sometimes it will scare me when I've got a project coming up that I know is a risk and there's a chance that it could be teased or pulled apart, and I have to battle through that. And then I have a fear of being found out to be a fraud, and I think a lot of people have this, that we all have knowledge gaps. We've all got holes in our art, or holes in our skill sets that we don't want people to know about. But the truth is, we all have those. So if we all have them, we shouldn't be terrified that we're the only one who's a fraud and everyone else is great. Everyone is trying to get better the whole time and cover up the places and the things that they don't know and put on a good face as if they're the best in their field. And if we know that, we can carry on because we're not suddenly on the outside of something. There's two kinds of fear, really. There's one which is the obvious one we all know and we think of straight away, which is the fear that there's a threat to us, that we're in danger somehow, that we need to run away from it. And then there's another kind of fear, like getting married. Anyone who's been married knows that on your wedding day, you have anxiety. And that's not because you're afraid, like the first kind of fear, there's a threat to you, like your wife is going to axe murder you in your bed. It's a different kind of fear. It's a fear that you want this thing to go so well because it's so important to you. And that should make you run towards something and give yourself to it. So fear for me has now not become a sign that I should run away from it. Fear has become a sign that this is really important to me and I should run to it and give myself to it. Steven Pressfield in his book says fear is a good sign, it's an indicator. The more we're scared of something, the more we know that we have to do it. So what are your resistances? Because if you can acknowledge what they are, then you can see them coming the next time around. Get Steven Pressfield's book, The War of Art, and make your own list of what your resistances are, the things that you battle with. And then the next time you don't feel like going out and creating, if you can acknowledge what those scripts are that are running in your head that are telling you not to bother, you've won 80% of the battle already. And if you still don't feel like creating, get up and do it anyway.